The sun had barely risen when she was already awake, moving quietly around the house to prepare for the day. Her small apartment in the city was modest, barely enough for her and her younger brother, whom she had taken responsibility for after their parents passed away. She had learned to be self-sufficient from an early age, learning that life did not wait for anyone and that kindness often went unnoticed. But she had never let hardship harden her heart. In fact, she believed in giving her best no matter the circumstances, even if it went unseen by the world. Her mornings always started early because she worked as a caregiver for an elderly man who lived in a large, old house at the edge of the neighborhood. The man, though frail and slow-moving, had a sharp mind and a gentle spirit. He had no other family living nearby, and she was grateful to be able to provide companionship, care, and sometimes even laughter in his days. The house itself was a beautiful structure from another era, with tall windows that let in streams of morning light, wooden floors that creaked softly underfoot, and walls lined with photographs and memories of a life fully lived. There were bookshelves filled with novels, biographies, and travel journals, and a piano stood quietly in the corner of the living room, its keys slightly yellowed with age. The old man loved music, though his body had grown too weak to play. She had noticed over time that simply hearing melodies brought him comfort. She had taken it upon herself to learn a few tunes on the piano. She wasn't formally trained, but she had a natural ear and a gentle touch that made the notes come alive. Some mornings, while helping him with breakfast, she would hum quietly as she moved around the kitchen. The old man would often smile, tapping his fingers lightly on the table, and sometimes, if he was feeling energetic, he would sing a line or two with her. Those were the moments she treasured the most. Her name was unimportant to most people, but to the old man she was a bright light in a quiet world. She arrived at his house promptly at 8, carrying a small bag with lunch and her notes for the day. She greeted him with a warm smile, and he responded with a soft chuckle, saying she made mornings less lonely. It was a ritual she looked forward to each day. Breakfast was always simple: toast, eggs, and fruit prepared to his liking. She knew the little details of his preferences, like how he liked a pinch of cinnamon on his oatmeal or how he enjoyed his tea with just a hint of sugar. She moved efficiently, making sure every plate was arranged just right before setting it in front of him. While he ate, she tidied the kitchen, humming softly to herself, letting the sound fill the room. After breakfast, they would settle in the living room. Sometimes they talked about the past, stories from his youth that painted pictures of a world she had never known. Other times they simply sat in silence, sharing a calm presence that needed no words. She often read aloud to him from his favorite books, knowing that even when his eyes tired, his mind could still travel through the stories. One particular morning, she decided to bring her small keyboard from home. It was light and easy to carry, and she had been practicing a song she remembered from her childhood. Music had always been her escape, her way of finding peace when life felt heavy. As she set up the keyboard in the living room, the old man watched with curious interest, leaning forward slightly in his chair. "Would you play for me today?" he asked, his voice soft but filled with anticipation. She nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "If you like, I can play something cheerful." The first notes were tentative, but as she grew more confident, the melody flowed more naturally. Her fingers danced across the keys and her voice joined in, soft and melodic, carrying a tune that was both familiar and comforting. She didn't notice at first how fully she was immersed, how every note came from a place of genuine care and emotion. The old man's eyes shone with delight. He hadn't felt such joy in a long time. There was something about her singing that reminded him of better days, of family gatherings and laughter echoing through a house much like this one. He clapped softly when the song ended, not wanting to startle her but unable to contain his appreciation. "You have a gift," he said, his voice steady despite his frailty. "Not just the music, but the way you share it." She shook her head, a bit embarrassed. "I just play what I feel. I'm not a professional, just someone who enjoys music." He smiled warmly, his eyes twinkling. "You're more than someone who enjoys music. You bring life into this house." Her cheeks flushed, but she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. These moments reminded her why she had chosen this work, why she continued to give her all despite the challenges she faced outside this home. The world could be harsh and unforgiving, but here she had the power to make a difference in someone's life, even in the smallest ways. After the music, they settled into their daily routine. She helped him with light exercises, assisted him with personal care, and organized his day so that he felt safe and supported. Each task, no matter how small, she approached with patience and attention. She remembered that the little things mattered most: the smile at the right moment, the gentle encouragement, the quiet presence that made someone feel less alone. While she worked, she sometimes reflected on her own life. Money was always tight and opportunities had been few and far between. Yet she never allowed herself to feel bitter. She had learned early that bitterness only made the heart heavy. Instead, she found joy in small victories. The way a patient finally smiled after weeks of discomfort. The way a friend's laughter could light up a room. The way a song could bring back memories long forgotten. Her brother was at school, and she had taken on the responsibility of supporting him, ensuring he had what he needed to thrive. She dreamed of a future where she could combine her love for music and caregiving, a life where she could help others while also pursuing her own passions. But for now, her focus was entirely on the old man, on the life she could touch directly. As the morning sun climbed higher, casting warm light into the room, there was a sense of peace that filled the house. It was a fragile peace, dependent on care, attention, and kindness, but it was real and tangible. She moved around the room quietly, checking that everything was in place, always mindful of the comfort and happiness of the man she cared for. Unseen by her, someone else was watching the house from a distance. A tall figure leaned slightly against the gate, observing the scene inside through the large front window. The figure's presence was subtle, almost invisible, yet it marked the beginning of a new chapter that neither she nor the old man could foresee. For now, though, she remained unaware, focused entirely on her music, her work, and the joy she could bring to another human being. By the time lunch arrived, she had already accomplished a full morning of care. She had prepared the meal, tidied the rooms, and shared stories, songs, and gentle laughter. The old man ate with visible contentment, and she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. It wasn't just the tasks themselves that mattered. It was the intention behind them, the love and attention she poured into each moment. She cleaned up the dishes, humming softly once again. Music was her constant companion, a thread that wove together her duties, her dreams, and her heart. The old man watched her with gratitude, knowing that her presence made his days brighter, lighter, and less lonely. He often thought of the quiet miracles she brought into his life, the way she seemed to understand what he needed without being asked, the patience and gentleness that defined her every action. As the afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows, she finally sat down for a brief moment of rest. Her hands were sore from the morning's work, but her heart was full. She reflected on the simple joys that had filled the house. A smile, a song, a story, a shared silence. These were the treasures of her day, more valuable than money, recognition, or accolades. And so, the morning ended as quietly as it had begun. The house was calm, filled with the gentle echoes of music and laughter. She prepared for the next task with the same care and dedication, knowing that each moment mattered, that each act of kindness could ripple outward in ways she could not yet see. Little did she know that her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. A silent observer had witnessed her devotion, her talent, and her kindness. A moment of genuine care had been captured by eyes that rarely saw such authenticity. The seeds of transformation were quietly being planted, though she remained completely unaware, focused entirely on the life she had chosen to lead, the care she provided, and the music that filled the spaces between words and actions. In this way, her ordinary morning was extraordinary, a testament to the quiet power of love, dedication, and the simple act of sharing oneself fully with another human being. The world beyond the walls of the house could be harsh and unpredictable, but within those walls there was warmth, compassion, and the beginning of a story that would change her life forever. The afternoon sun poured through the tall windows, casting a warm glow over the old man's living room. She had just finished helping him settle into a comfortable chair after lunch. He looked out of the window at the small garden below, a hint of nostalgia in his eyes, and she quietly moved about the room, tidying the cushions and arranging the few flowers he loved so much. Music still lingered softly in the corners of the house, a reminder of the morning's performance. She had always known that the old man cherished music, but today she felt a stronger pull in her heart to share more than just a few notes. She remembered a lullaby her mother had sung to her, a melody filled with hope and warmth, and she wondered if the old man might enjoy it. Sitting at the keyboard, she began to play softly, letting the notes drift through the room like a gentle breeze. The old man listened closely, a faint smile forming on his lips. Memories seemed to stir in his eyes, old joys and long-lost moments flickering like the sunlight on the polished wooden floor. She sang along quietly, letting her voice blend with the music, unaware that she was being observed from another part of the house. A shadow moved near the entrance, and she didn't notice. The old man's son had returned unexpectedly, stepping quietly into the room. He rarely visited, consumed as he was by business, meetings, and the busy demands of a wealthy life. Yet today something had drawn him back, something beyond obligation. He paused in the doorway, watching the caregiver with a mix of curiosity and awe. She continued to sing, completely absorbed in the moment. Her hands moved gracefully across the keys, and her voice carried an honesty that was impossible to ignore. There was no pretense, no effort to impress anyone, just pure emotion and genuine care. The old man's eyes glistened with appreciation, and he gently tapped his fingers on the armrest, a silent encouragement that she should continue. The son stood quietly, taking in every detail. The soft notes, the way her fingers lingered on certain keys, the warmth in her voice. He could see how the old man responded, how the caregiver's presence brought a sparkle to his father's eyes that had been missing for years. It wasn't just talent, it was something far more profound. It was her heart, her kindness, and her unassuming dedication to another human being. She finally finished the song and leaned back slightly, catching her breath. The old man clapped gently, his eyes full of joy. She smiled at him, a little embarrassed by the attention, but pleased that the music had brought him happiness. "You have a gift," the old man said softly, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Not everyone can touch the soul with music the way you do." She shook her head modestly. "I'm just trying to make you happy. I've never thought about anything else." The son stepped forward, clearing his throat to announce his presence. She turned abruptly, startled, and saw a tall, well-dressed man standing near the doorway. There was a mix of curiosity and admiration in his eyes, and for a moment she felt self-conscious, unsure why he was there. "I didn't mean to interrupt," he said gently. "I just came in and couldn't help but watch. Your music, it's remarkable. And the way you care for him, it's extraordinary." She blinked, caught off guard. "Thank you, sir, but I'm just doing my job. I love what I do." He smiled, clearly impressed. "It's more than a job. It's rare to see someone so dedicated, so genuine. Most people chase recognition or reward, but you do it for the love of it." She felt a mix of pride and humility. Compliments were not something she often received, especially from someone of such wealth and influence. Yet the sincerity in his voice made her heart warm. She realized that he had seen something in her that she had never fully acknowledged herself, the power of giving and the impact it could have on others. Over the next few minutes, they spoke quietly, exchanging words that felt unusually honest and open. The son asked about her background, how she had come to work as a caregiver, and what had inspired her to keep going despite the challenges she faced. She shared bits of her life, speaking of her brother, the struggles of making ends meet, and her love for music. He listened intently, not interrupting, absorbing every word. The old man watched the exchange with a small, knowing smile. He understood, as few could, that this interaction might open a door she had never expected. He had seen her kindness, her dedication, and her talent, and he knew the world outside these walls could recognize and reward such rare qualities. After a moment, the son spoke again. "There's an event I'm organizing next month. It's a charity gathering, and I think you should perform. Not as a favor, but because I believe people need to hear what you bring. Your music, your heart. It could touch many lives." She hesitated, feeling both nervous and overwhelmed. "I don't know if I'm ready for that. I've never performed in front of a large audience. I'm just someone who cares for others and sings sometimes." He smiled reassuringly. "You don't have to be a professional. The authenticity you have, that's what matters. People will feel it, and it could change their lives just as it changes mine." She took a deep breath, her mind racing with possibilities. The idea of performing on a bigger stage, of being recognized for her talent, was both thrilling and terrifying. She had always focused on her immediate responsibilities, never allowing herself to dream too far ahead. Yet, Here was an opportunity that felt like it had been waiting for her all along. "I'll think about it," she said softly, not wanting to commit too quickly but feeling a spark of hope. "It's a lot to consider." The son nodded, understanding her caution. "Take your time. I just wanted you to know that someone believes in you, in your gift, and in the way you touch the lives of those around you." As he left the room, she felt a mix of emotions: excitement, fear, and gratitude. The moment lingered in her mind long after he had gone, like a melody that refused to fade. She continued her work with the old man, helping him with his afternoon exercises and preparing a light snack. Yet, her thoughts kept drifting back to the possibility of stepping into a world she had never imagined. Later that afternoon, as she played a quiet tune on the keyboard while the old man rested in his chair, she reflected on how life had a way of presenting opportunities in the most unexpected ways. A simple act of singing, done with sincerity and care, had drawn the attention of someone who could open doors she hadn't dared to knock on. She felt a sense of calm determination settle over her. Whatever came next, she knew she would face it with the same dedication and heart she brought to every other part of her life. The world might be uncertain, but her purpose was clear: to bring comfort, joy, and music to those who needed it most, and perhaps in doing so to touch the lives of many others as well. Evening approached, and the sun cast long shadows across the room. She prepared the old man for dinner, helping him wash his hands and settle comfortably. They spoke softly about memories, music, and small joys, the house filled with a gentle warmth that came from shared understanding and care. After dinner, she cleared the table and tidied the kitchen, humming a soft tune. Her mind kept returning to the son's words and the invitation to perform. It was an idea that felt both improbable and exciting, and she allowed herself a small smile at the thought. Perhaps for the first time in her life, she could imagine a future where her passion and her purpose could intersect in a way that mattered not just to her, but to the world. As she prepared to leave for the evening, the old man reached out and took her hand. "Thank you for today," he said, his voice filled with quiet gratitude. "You bring light into this house. Remember that." She squeezed his hand gently, her heart full. "I will, sir. And thank you for letting me be a part of your life." Stepping out into the cool evening air, she walked home slowly, reflecting on the unexpected turns of the day. Life had a way of surprising those who remained open to its possibilities. She had no idea how far this moment would reach, no idea how it would change her life, but she carried with her a sense of hope and the knowledge that her heart, her music, and her care had the power to touch others in ways that could never be measured. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about the morning, the afternoon, and the chance encounter that had set everything in motion. She closed her eyes, letting the melodies of the day play softly in her mind, and for the first time, allowed herself to imagine a future filled with music, opportunity, and the possibility of a life transformed by kindness, talent, and an unwavering heart. The next morning, she woke up feeling a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. The invitation to perform at the charity event kept replaying in her mind. It was unlike anything she had imagined for herself, and yet there was a spark of hope that she had never allowed herself to nurture before. She prepared her breakfast quietly, her hands moving almost automatically, but her thoughts were elsewhere, weaving through possibilities and questions. Could she really step onto a stage and perform for people she did not know? Would her music resonate with them the way it had with the old man? Her brother had noticed a certain brightness in her demeanor that morning. He had always admired her strength, her ability to remain kind and patient despite the challenges they faced. Over breakfast, he teased her lightly, sensing that something was on her mind. She smiled, careful not to give away too much, simply telling him she had been thinking about some new opportunities for her music. He nodded, understanding that sometimes dreams needed room to breathe before they could be spoken aloud. Arriving at the old man's house, she felt a familiar calm wash over her. The house, with its tall windows and warm sunlight, always had a way of making her feel at home, no matter how chaotic life outside might be. The old man greeted her with a soft smile, noticing the hint of anticipation in her eyes. "Good morning," he said. "You seem thoughtful today." She nodded, taking a deep breath. "I have something on my mind, sir. About music, and maybe sharing it with others." He raised his eyebrows with gentle curiosity. "Go on." She explained as best she could the invitation from his son. She spoke about the charity event, her hesitation and her excitement. As she spoke, he listened intently, nodding occasionally, a knowing smile forming on his lips. "You've always had a gift," he said softly, "and gifts like yours are meant to be shared. If you feel ready, even just a little, I think this is an opportunity worth taking." His encouragement gave her a sense of clarity. She realized that her fear was natural, but her desire to grow, to make a difference, and to honor her passion for music was stronger. She thanked him, feeling a renewed determination building within her. The days that followed were filled with preparation. She practiced relentlessly, moving from simple melodies to more complex pieces. She experimented with her voice, trying to find the right balance between technical skill and emotional honesty. Every day she returned to the old man's house, allowing herself brief moments of performance for him, seeking his subtle feedback, his encouraging nods, and the warmth of his appreciation. Meanwhile, the old man's son occasionally checked in, offering quiet guidance and reassurance. He did not pressure her. Instead, he provided subtle suggestions that helped her feel more confident. They spoke about song choices, about emotions that needed to be conveyed, and about connecting with an audience beyond just notes and rhythms. His support was steady but never overbearing, and she began to trust in the process, trusting in herself. As the day of the charity event approached, nerves began to creep in. She found herself imagining the grand hall, the unfamiliar faces, the weight of expectation. Doubts whispered in her mind, questioning whether she was truly ready. But she also reminded herself of the morning she had shared music with the old man, of the genuine joy it had brought him. If she could touch one heart so deeply, perhaps she could touch many others. On the morning of the event, she dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that was simple yet elegant. She wanted to feel comfortable in her own skin, to allow her authenticity to shine through. Her brother wished her luck, his eyes full of pride and support, and she hugged him tightly, carrying his encouragement with her. Arriving at the venue, she was struck by the size and scale of the place. There were people everywhere, organizers, volunteers, and guests preparing for the evening. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the present moment. She reminded herself why she was there, not for fame, not for recognition, but to share something true and beautiful through her music. Backstage, she saw the old man's son waiting with a reassuring smile. "You're ready for this," he said simply. "Just remember to be yourself. That's all anyone needs to see." She nodded, feeling the tension ease slightly. When her name was announced, she stepped onto the stage, the bright lights momentarily blinding her. She paused, looking out at the crowd, taking in the sea of faces. Some were familiar, some complete strangers, and yet she felt a calm determination settle within her. She began to play the keyboard, the first notes soft and tentative. Then, as her confidence grew, her fingers danced across the keys and her voice filled the hall with the melody she had chosen. It was a song of hope, resilience, and kindness, a song that spoke of ordinary moments transformed by care and love. The audience was silent, rapt with attention, captivated by the sincerity in every note and word. She noticed a few people wiping their eyes, others smiling with quiet appreciation. She felt a deep connection with the crowd, a shared understanding that transcended words. It was as if the music itself carried the essence of her heart to every listener, and for the first time, she realized the true power of sharing one's authentic self. When the final note faded, there was a moment of hushed silence, followed by a wave of applause that filled the hall. She bowed deeply, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and gratitude. The old man's son stepped forward, clapping, his eyes shining with admiration. He knew, as did everyone present, that they had witnessed something rare and extraordinary. After her performance, she was approached by several guests, people who had been moved by her music and wanted to know more about her story. She shared her experiences, her dedication to caring for others, and her love for music. Each conversation reinforced her sense of purpose, showing her that the simple acts of kindness and passion she had cultivated were meaningful far beyond her immediate world. Returning home that night, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had faced her fears, shared her heart, and touched the lives of many. Yet she remained grounded, remembering the old man who had first inspired her, the quiet mornings filled with music, and the small gestures of care that defined her daily life. Over the following weeks, invitations to perform at other events began to arrive. People were drawn not only to her talent, but to her authenticity, the genuine care and humility that radiated from her every action. She accepted some opportunities cautiously, always mindful of maintaining the balance between her work as a caregiver and her growing presence in the world of music. Through it all, she continued to return to the old man's house, sharing music, stories, and laughter. She realized that no amount of recognition or success could replace the fulfillment she felt in the quiet moments of care and connection. The old man's eyes would light up when she played, and his soft words of encouragement reminded her of the deeper purpose behind her gift. She began to see a new path for herself, one that blended her love for music with her dedication to helping others. She envisioned programs for the elderly, for children, for those who had never had the opportunity to experience music in its most heartfelt form. Her life, once defined by struggle and uncertainty, was now opening to a future filled with possibility, shaped by kindness, talent, and determination. And so, she continued day by day, blending her ordinary life with extraordinary moments of connection. She practiced, performed, and cared, never losing sight of the simple truth that had guided her all along: that the heart behind one's actions mattered more than recognition, and that genuine love and dedication could change lives in ways no one could imagine. Little did she know that her journey was only beginning. The seeds planted through her music and care were beginning to grow, and the world beyond the old man's house was slowly starting to take notice. The transformation was not just in her life but in the lives of those she touched, a ripple effect that would continue to expand, guided by the simple but powerful force of authenticity, compassion, and courage. Weeks passed since her first performance at the charity event, and life had started to shift in ways she had never imagined. Invitations for more performances began arriving, though she remained careful to maintain balance between her work as a caregiver and her growing musical opportunities. Every morning she woke with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that her talent and heart had begun to touch lives far beyond the quiet rooms of the old man's house. Her days were still filled with the familiar routines: preparing breakfast, tidying the home, assisting the old man with exercises, and sharing quiet moments of conversation, but now there was an added dimension of excitement. She spent her afternoons practicing for upcoming performances, refining her technique and experimenting with new songs. Yet she never allowed herself to be distracted from the old man's comfort, always returning to him with the same warmth and patience that had earned his trust and affection. One afternoon, she brought a new melody she had composed to share with him. The old man, seated comfortably in his chair by the window, watched her with interest. She began to play softly, allowing the tune to develop naturally, letting her emotions guide each note. When she added her voice, it filled the room with a richness that seemed to linger in the air. The old man listened quietly, his eyes glistening with appreciation. "This is beautiful," he said gently. "Your music. It carries more than melody. It carries the heart." She smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. It was moments like these that reminded her why she had chosen this path: the ability to make someone feel valued, comforted, and remembered through the simple act of sharing music. Later that week, she received an unexpected message from the son. He wanted to discuss an idea that could potentially change her life even further. When they met at a quiet cafe, he explained that he had been impressed not only by her talent but by her humility and dedication. He suggested helping her launch a small foundation or program to bring music and companionship to the elderly and those in need. She listened, initially overwhelmed. The idea was ambitious and outside anything she had considered. But as he explained how he could support her, providing resources and guidance, a spark of possibility ignited within her. She realized that this could be a way to merge her passion for music with her desire to help others, creating a lasting impact that went far beyond individual performances. Over the next few months, she worked tirelessly to organize her first program. She coordinated volunteers, arranged music sessions, and visited local homes and centers to connect with elderly residents. Each visit was a reminder of why she had dedicated herself to caregiving and music. The joy on the faces of those she touched, the smiles, the laughter, and sometimes tears became her motivation to keep going. During this time, her relationship with the old man's son grew more meaningful. He offered guidance without pressure, often accompanying her to events and helping her navigate the logistics of organizing the program. Yet he never overshadowed her work or her voice. He admired her strength, her humility, and her ability to inspire others simply by being authentic. Through him, she also learned lessons about leadership, organization, and vision, skills that complemented her natural empathy and talent. At home, her bond with the old man deepened. He was proud of her achievements, yet remained the grounding presence she relied upon. Even as she became busier with performances and community work, she made time to visit him daily, to play music, and to share stories. He encouraged her, reminding her that her gifts were meant to shine and that she could bring light not only to his life but to countless others. Her musical career began to take shape as well. Invitations for performances expanded, not just at charity events but at small concerts and local gatherings. She approached each opportunity with a sense of purpose, understanding that her music was more than entertainment. It was a bridge to human connection, empathy, and healing. One evening, after a long day of organizing a community music session, she returned to the old man's house to find him waiting in his favorite chair, a gentle smile on his face. "I am so proud of you," he said softly. "You are making a difference, not just with music, but with your heart." Her eyes welled up with tears. She had never expected recognition or praise, but hearing these words from someone she deeply respected and cared for moved her profoundly. She realized that true fulfillment came from the impact she could have on others, the genuine connections she could nurture, and the joy she could create through acts of love and dedication. As months went by, her work expanded further. She started mentoring young caregivers and aspiring musicians, sharing her experiences, struggles, and lessons. She encouraged them to pursue their passions, reminding them that kindness, patience, and authenticity were as important as talent or skill. Her life became a blend of caregiving, music, and community outreach, each element reinforcing the other, creating a sense of harmony and purpose. The old man's health, however, remained fragile. She continued to provide daily care, aware that each day was precious. They shared quiet moments of reflection, music, and conversation. His son often visited, observing the love and dedication she brought to every interaction, and it only reinforced his admiration and gratitude. One particular afternoon, while she played a gentle tune on the keyboard, the old man reached out and held her hand. "You have changed my life," he said, his voice soft but steady. "And I am certain you will change the lives of many more." She felt a surge of emotion. Words could not capture the depth of her feelings, the gratitude, the joy, the humility, and the resolve to continue her journey. She realized that her life had already transformed, not just through external recognition, but through the meaningful connections she had cultivated and the lives she had touched. As the days turned into months, her program grew, reaching more communities, more individuals, and inspiring others to join in her mission. People began to see her not only as a talented musician, but as a symbol of compassion, dedication, and hope. She never sought the spotlight. It found her naturally, drawn by her authenticity and the genuine care she extended to everyone around her. Despite the growing recognition and opportunities, she remained grounded. She continued her morning routines, her visits to the old man, her quiet practice sessions, and her moments of reflection. Each day was a reminder of the power of small, consistent acts of kindness, and how one person's dedication could ripple outward, affecting countless lives. The old man's son, observing all of this, often reflected on the extraordinary impact of simple human connection. He realized that wealth and influence were secondary to the power of authenticity, humility, and genuine care. Through the caregiver, he witnessed a lesson that would stay with him forever, that true success was measured not by riches or status, but by the ability to touch hearts and change lives. One evening, after a long day of community outreach and musical practice, she sat by the window of the old man's house, reflecting on her journey. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. She thought about the moments that had led her here, the quiet mornings, the music shared, the encouragement received, and the opportunities embraced. She realized that her life, once constrained by circumstance, had blossomed into a tapestry of meaningful experiences, purpose, and hope. She knew there would be challenges ahead, moments of doubt and days of exhaustion, yet she felt confident that with her heart guiding her, and with the support of those who believed in her, she could face whatever came next. She was no longer just a caregiver or a musician. She was a beacon of compassion, a source of inspiration, and a living example of how authenticity and dedication could transform lives. As night fell, she played a soft tune on the keyboard, the notes drifting through the house, mingling with the quiet sounds of the evening. The old man, resting in his chair, listened with a peaceful smile. His son, quietly observing from the doorway, felt a deep sense of gratitude and awe. The music, the care, and the love that filled the house had created something extraordinary, a legacy of kindness, talent, and unwavering heart that would continue to grow long after this evening had ended. The morning air was crisp and quiet, the neighborhood still wrapped in the soft calm of early hours. She moved through her routine with the usual grace, preparing breakfast for the old man, tidying the house and setting the table just as he liked it. The familiarity of the tasks brought comfort, but there was a subtle weight in the air, a gentle reminder of time passing and moments precious and fleeting. The old man, frail as he was, seemed to carry a certain peace that morning. His eyes met hers, and in that glance she understood without words the unspoken bond they had nurtured over countless days filled with care, conversation, and music. Today felt different, as if the rhythm of life had shifted slightly, signaling change and reflection. They shared breakfast quietly, the sounds of clinking utensils and soft conversation blending seamlessly. She hummed softly, as she often did, letting the familiar melodies drift through the room. His hand rested briefly on hers, a silent expression of gratitude and warmth. She smiled, feeling the deep connection that had formed between them, knowing that in these simple interactions, life's most meaningful moments were found. After breakfast, she guided him to his favorite chair by the window. The sunlight streamed in, illuminating the room with a gentle glow. Today, she decided to play a piece that was particularly personal to her, a melody that had carried her through challenges, hopes, and dreams. As she pressed the keys and her voice joined, the room filled with a sense of tranquility and nostalgia. The old man listened intently, his eyes glimmering with emotion, and she could see the memories stirred by the music, long-forgotten stories and moments coming alive in his mind. During the afternoon, the old man's son arrived for a visit. He had been closely involved in supporting her growing music initiatives and community outreach, but today he was there simply to witness the quiet beauty of their bond. He watched from a distance as she played, noting how effortlessly her music brought calm and joy, not just to the old man, but to herself. Her heart poured into every note, a reflection of her authenticity, kindness, and dedication. After she finished playing, he approached gently. "You have created something extraordinary here," he said. "It's not just music. It's a gift that touches hearts." She shook her head softly, humility in her eyes. "I just do what I love and try to bring comfort." "I never imagined it could mean so much." He smiled warmly. "That is exactly why it matters. People can feel the love in what you do. That is rare, and it changes lives in ways we often cannot measure." The old man joined the conversation, his voice calm but firm. "She has brought light into my life, and now, through her music and compassion, she's bringing light to many more. This is her gift, and she has used it well." The conversation lingered in her mind as the day progressed. She reflected on how far she had come, from the quiet mornings of dedication and care to sharing her music with larger audiences and communities. Her journey had been shaped not by fame or fortune, but by sincerity, empathy, and a willingness to embrace opportunity when it aligned with her values. Evening came, and with it a quiet celebration of the day's moments. She prepared a simple dinner for the old man, and they ate together, sharing reflections on the day. The old man's son joined them later, offering both conversation and companionship. It was a scene of warmth and contentment, a reminder of how meaningful human connection could be when nurtured with care and attention. As the night settled in, she found herself at the keyboard once more, playing softly for the old man. Each note was filled with intention, each melody a reflection of her gratitude, hope, and love. The old man listened, eyes closing briefly as he absorbed the music, the familiar comfort of these moments grounding him in peace. Afterward, she sat quietly beside him, holding his hand. "Thank you for letting me be a part of your life," she said softly. "You've taught me so much about patience, kindness, and seeing joy in small moments." He smiled, a warmth in his expression that spoke volumes. And you've taught me that even the simplest acts done with love can bring immense happiness. I am grateful for every day shared with you." Her thoughts drifted to the many people whose lives she had touched through her music and care. She thought about the elderly she visited, the children she inspired, and the communities that had welcomed her programs. Every interaction reinforced the understanding that genuine human connection, rooted in empathy and authenticity, could create ripples of change far beyond what she had imagined. Over the next weeks, her work continued to flourish. Her music programs expanded, drawing attention from local organizations and individuals who admired her dedication. She continued to perform at small concerts and events, not for fame, but to share the beauty of music and the importance of compassion. Each performance was a reflection of her heart, a testament to the journey that had begun in quiet moments of caregiving. The old man's health remained delicate, yet he continued to find joy in her presence and her music. She never left his side for long, always returning with stories, songs, and laughter. His son often accompanied her to events, offering support and guidance, yet never overshadowing her voice. Together, they formed a partnership built on respect, admiration, and shared purpose. One particular afternoon, as she played a new melody she had composed, the old man took her hand and spoke with a calm certainty. "Your journey is remarkable. You have not only changed your own life, but the lives of countless others. Your music, your care, and your heart are treasures to this world." She felt a swell of emotion, tears brimming in her eyes. Words could not fully capture the depth of her gratitude and joy. She realized that the true measure of success was not in recognition or accolades, but in the lives touched, the hearts lifted, and the compassion extended. She had discovered a path where passion, empathy, and dedication intertwined to create lasting impact. As days turned into months, she continued her dual role of caregiver and musician. She mentored young musicians, guided aspiring caregivers, and expanded her programs to reach more communities. Her work became a beacon of inspiration, demonstrating that authenticity, kindness, and perseverance could create profound change. The old man eventually passed peacefully, comforted by the love and care she had consistently provided. She mourned deeply, yet felt a sense of fulfillment knowing she had been part of his final years, bringing joy and companionship. His son, profoundly grateful for her presence, continued to support her initiatives, helping her reach even wider audiences and communities. Years later, her influence continued to grow. She had become a respected figure in her field, admired not only for her musical talent but for the genuine care, humility, and heart she brought to every interaction. Her life had transformed from humble beginnings to a journey rich with purpose, impact, and meaningful connections. She often reflected on the pivotal moments that had led her here, the mornings spent caring for one man, the melodies shared, and the silent observer who recognized the value of her heart and talent. Each step, no matter how small, had contributed to a life of significance and fulfillment. Even as recognition and opportunities expanded, she remained grounded. Her mornings still began with quiet routines, her afternoons with music and caregiving, and her evenings with reflection and gratitude. She understood that the essence of her journey lay not in fame or fortune, but in the authenticity and compassion she brought to each day. In the end, she had learned that one person's dedication, sincerity, and heart could ripple outward in ways unimaginable, changing lives, inspiring hope, and leaving a legacy of kindness and music that would endure long after any single performance. Her life was a testament to the power of love, empathy, and courage, showing that even the simplest acts, performed with intention and care, could create a lasting impact on the world around her. The morning sun peeked through the curtains, casting a soft golden light across her small apartment. She rose quietly, careful not to disturb the gentle hum of the city waking outside. Today was a day of reflection, of quiet contemplation, a pause in the whirlwind of performances, outreach, and community work that had come to define her life. She moved through her morning routine with calm intention, each action deliberate and mindful. As she prepared breakfast, her mind wandered to the journey she had undertaken, from the early days of quietly caring for the old man, to the extraordinary life that had unfolded because of simple acts of kindness and music. She remembered the mornings spent playing melodies that seemed to float through the air, the afternoons of shared laughter and storytelling, and the moments when she had felt the quiet recognition of her efforts in the old man's eyes. After breakfast, she settled at her keyboard, allowing her fingers to drift across the keys, She played softly, letting the notes carry her thoughts, memories, and gratitude. Music had always been her companion, her solace, and her way of connecting with the world. And now it had become a bridge to countless lives she had touched through performances, community programs, and mentorship. Her phone rang, interrupting the gentle flow of the morning. It was a call from the son, who had remained a close friend and mentor throughout her journey. He invited her to discuss a new initiative, one that would expand her outreach to include training programs for caregivers, incorporating music therapy and personalized care. She listened intently as he explained the concept, her mind already racing with ideas, possibilities, and the impact they could create together. Later that afternoon, she met with him in a quiet cafe. They spoke for hours, mapping out plans, sharing visions, and considering how best to integrate music and caregiving in ways that could bring comfort, joy, and connection to those who needed it most. She felt invigorated, inspired by the potential to scale her work without losing the personal touch that had always defined her approach. Returning home, she paused in front of the window, looking out at the neighborhood streets bathed in late afternoon light. The memories of the old man and the quiet mornings they had shared filled her mind. She realized that every step of her journey had been shaped by his influence, by the trust and bond they had built together. Even though he was no longer with her, his presence remained in her heart, guiding her decisions and inspiring her to continue creating meaningful change. That evening, she prepared for a small concert she had been invited to perform at, a local gathering meant to raise awareness about community support and caregiving. As she arrived, she was greeted warmly by organizers and attendees who recognized her dedication and talent. She felt a familiar mix of nerves and excitement, a reminder that even after years of growth, every performance held a special significance. When her turn came, she stepped onto the modest stage, her heart steady and focused. She began to play a melody that had become her signature, soft at first, then gradually building into a rich, emotional tapestry of sound. Her voice carried the sincerity, empathy, and passion that had touched so many lives, filling the room with warmth and connection. The audience listened in rapt attention, moved not only by her music, but by the authenticity that radiated from her every note. After the performance, several attendees approached, expressing gratitude for the way her music had inspired them, and for the work she had done in their community. She spoke with each person warmly, sharing her experiences and encouraging them to consider how they could make a difference in their own ways. It was a moment of quiet fulfillment, a reminder that her journey was not about accolades but about the lives touched and the hearts moved through her dedication and care.